Sorry about that. Had the intro on the loop still. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Welcome to the Red and Gold Standard Podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez. This afternoon, I'm joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn. We're here to recap the 49ers' ugly loss in Week 1 to the Chicago Bears. I say ugly, self-inflicted wounds, weather. Luckily, it wasn't a blowout. Matt, what's your initial take on this game?
Kind of funny that you played the loop twice. That was an unforced error, and that seems to be the theme of the day. This was ugly. Scott Crawford, welcome. Thanks for coming back. Hats off to the Bears. They got the job done. The 49ers did not. This was a team that came out and just kind of they just did not play well. They did not play well at all. And what's really funny is that you look at all the stats, all the things. If I were to tell you the 49ers had more total yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play, more first downs, more total plays, and won the time of possession by 7 minutes, you're like, oh, the 49ers dominated this game. And yet they lose by 9. Turnovers, penalties, particularly blown coverages on the defense. Again, weather narrows the talent gap, and you let a team hang around long enough, and it's going to come back and bite you. And that's exactly what happened. And I don't want to turn this into it's going to turn into a referendum on Trey Lance, but really his up and downs. Again, we said before the game, hey, don't expect like Trey Lance to just come out and light the world on fire. He's going to have some ups. He's going to have some downs. I can't really judge his performance given how bad the weather was. But the other areas, a Deebo Samuel fumble in the red zone, again, typical Shanahan first down, always running it, play calling, the 12 penalties. Those are the things that took them out of the game.
100% agree. Just that fumble by Deebo killed all of that momentum going into that first drive. The 49ers exited the first half with all of the momentum overall, and then they let the Bears crawl back in with broken plays and penalties. That's the perfect recipe for a loss.
Right.
It's really
and no disrespect to you, Scott Crawford, but Kittle and the weather and Lance had much less to do with it than penalties and the turnovers.
Yeah. The self-inflicted wounds. I mean, I can count at least 3 or 4 drives in my head right now that should have been done.
There were 2 scoring drives the Bears had where they were stopped on third down, and then penalties gave them the ball, gave them new life, and they scored.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull up the stats here. We'll go over them real quick. Again, just a really, really unfortunate loss for the 49ers, but this is a young team. Like you said, Lance's expectations or performances kind of matched our expectations going into the game. He finished 13 of 28, 164 yards with 1 interception, sacked twice, QBR of 50.3. He had one almost deep throw to Tyler Kroft that should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, and that was an errant throw. He needed to throw that up the field rather than towards the sideline. Yeah. So there was that.
It's unfortunate, but that's how that played out. Justin Fields, on the other hand, not much different. 8 for 17, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 85. He did get the long 2 touchdown passes, kind of came on broken
plays. Both on busted coverages.
Yeah, exactly. So it's unfortunate. Also, notably, the 49ers lost their leading rusher, Elijah Mitchell, I think early on in the second half or towards the end of the first half, and he did not come back. He was ruled out immediately with a knee injury. Right. I have not seen any further information on that.
And I don't want to slander anybody, so I'm going to say this as delicately as I can. Jeff Wilson Jr. is not it. I could care less if I never see him again. 9 carries, 22 yards, 2 catches, 8 yards. Terrible. Again, I want to blame the offensive line, right? Because Trey Lance was under duress all day, and it's going to be really interesting to see the pressure numbers. But you look at Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance averaged 4.2 yards a carry. Deebo Samuel, 6.5 yards a carry. Elijah Mitchell, before he left, 6.8 yards a carry. And then you get to Jeff Wilson Jr., 2.4.
Yeah.
That's horrendous.
Nothing special there.
No, and he's, I think in the fans' minds, he's a made man because of the
Cardinals game.
The zero blitz game. Sorry, out of the corner of my eye, the Cincinnati kicker, the Pittsburgh kicker, just dinged one off of the upright, so it's tied with 2 minutes left at overtime. So we might have a tie week one. Anyway, no, this was a situation where once Elijah Mitchell, and we had said this in the chat, there was a Deebo run where we were like, that's so obviously for Deebo, and it didn't go anywhere. Yeah. And then on the Deebo touchdown play, you saw Elijah Mitchell lined out wide, and Deebo was in the backfield. And then it's like, well, at least that's a different wrinkle. You don't know exactly what's going to happen there. That could be something else where, maybe you hand it off to Deebo, and then maybe Elijah comes back and does a reverse or something like that, right? Different things happen when you put somebody different out on the edge of the field to kind of account for where Deebo Samuel is. But I don't know. It was a bad performance all the way around. Ugly game. I'm at a loss for words, really. It was just bad.
Likewise, Kyle Shanahan came out, basically just said that's kind of what we expected going in. Obviously, the team looked extremely undisciplined today. Greenlaw, Aziz, and Aziz also left and was evaluated for a concussion. I don't know if there was any. He did come back. Okay, that's good. Yeah. But the sloppiness by the defense kept the Bears in this game. And it wasn't just the defense, but I would say mainly the defense. The penalties extending drives. They would get a stop on third down and then a late hit, a holding. This is not winning football. The 49ers cannot continue to play this way and expect to have a winning season. So let's hope they're able to turn this on. But again, just like Matt said to open the show, the rain really, really impacted the 49ers' ability to do much, which isn't as much an excuse because the Bears were able to get the job done. But I think it fit their style of football more so than the 49ers style, which is kind of the neat and good. I shouldn't say good, neat and clean ground game where the Bears are able to capitalize more so on broken plays and the deep passes by Justin Fields. So unfortunately, the weather just suited them. I'm not making any excuses because the 49ers played pretty poorly, especially in the second half, but the weather did not help. Some of the calls too, I hate to be that guy, but some of the calls were very, very questionable.
I mean, the first personal foul on Greenlaw was pretty soft given the field conditions.
Yeah.
The face mask on him was legit. I mean, you can't that was just dumb running into the pile. Like, you don't even need to grab the running back. Just grab your dude.
The play was over.
Right.
Herbert was complete. I believe it was Herbert.
Those are things. And then he's sitting there, and I saw on both occasions where Fred Warner or somebody had to come up to him and be like, "Hey, man, keep your shit together. Yeah, relax."
He seems to be a hothead.
Spin. Yeah. He very much reminds me of Hot Boys. That dude,
Quan.
Yeah, Quan Alexander in demeanor. So better tackler, but still hothead, fiery, makes mistakes. Yeah,
I can see that.
And again, I'm not going to give him the benefit of, he's not going to live off of the
Seattle goal line
tackle.
stop.
Yeah, dude, you're finishing for me today. I must have dementia or something.
This is hilarious, Scott. That 15-yard penalty for the towel. I've never seen that called.
No. But I've also never seen somebody bring a towel out to the middle and try to pat dry the field.
No.
And then just casually throw that shit behind him.
Yeah. Should have at least tucked it in his waistline or something, but
wasn't there a game with a kicker where they cleared out some snow and that was a huge issue?
Yep. Apparently it's unsportsmanlike conduct, so
right.
I mean, you got to play with the conditions as they are. All right, so this game obviously disappointing. The 49ers will preview the Seahawks later in the week. Hopefully get back on track against Seattle at home. Was this, and I, again, hate to be this homer guy, but 49ers coughing it up or the Bears just taking advantage and winning, or maybe a little bit of both? Because to me, it seems like the 49ers just let this one go right out of their hands.
Yeah, it's kind of that, but really funky things happen in bad weather games. And you can never... any given Sunday anyway, but in inclement weather situations, man, all it takes is one thing here, one thing there. Steve brought it up earlier that Tashawn Gibson actually dropped an interception that could have been huge for the 49ers. So there's all kinds of things going on. I saw Trey Lance throw some passes where I was just like, there's no possible way that wasn't a slip or something going on. The football is, whatever. Same things with Fields. there are a couple screen passes from both of those dudes where you're just like, are you sure these guys are NFL quarterbacks? Because they just were so errant, so out of control that it had to have been the weather. There's nothing else that it could have possibly been. But a lot of this is the penalties and the lack of execution. And a lot of people are going to go after Shanahan. And I will say that his play calling once again was very blah. He'll go through these couple of game funks, right, where he's blah with it. He's blah. I think what happened is during the lead up to this game all week, we knew it was going to be raining, right? That's been the story all week. It's going to rain in Chicago. And I think that he had a game plan developed specifically for the rain, and he kind of stuck to that. At the same time, the penalties, they'll say, oh, this is an undisciplined team. This is a Shanahan team. They should have been more prepared. But in my opinion, I think that the funky schedule of the preseason was really a huge part of it. I mean, you had guys like Bosa and Trent Williams who had a penalty today, and, others who were out there that didn't even really play in the preseason. Yeah. And they didn't play together. Even the guys that did, you see a Javon Kinlaw in week 2, but not week 1. And you see Al-Shaair in week 3 or whatever. And so you're asking these guys to go out here and compete as a unit when they haven't even got reps in. And it's readily apparent. I would have said like a lot of this is on Shanahan and things like that. But if you're looking at like the rest of the league today, every game has been sloppy. Multiple teams gave up second half leads. Joe Burrow had 3 interceptions in the first half. These are things that just come with the new collective bargaining agreement and the way that they have structured the 17-game season and the preseason, where you're kind of keeping people off to the side. You're trying to save them for the real games. And then their first extended game action is week 1. So Kyle Shanahan deserves blame for the play calling, but in terms of Kyle Shanahan's not out there grabbing face masks. Kyle Shanahan's not out there jumping off sides. You know what I mean? So that is a little bit in a different category for me.
Yep. And this tweet by Chris Biederman, I thought was perfect. 49ers have outgained the Bears 330 to 206. This was earlier in the game, mind you, but we're doomed by 12 penalties and 2 turnovers, including one in the red zone. They had 2 third down stops negated by flags leading to touchdowns. Trey Lance was all right. Not the reason they lost, though. And that's exactly it. It was just turnovers, sloppy play, play calling, and undisciplined. Does Elijah Mitchell possibly being out, we don't know the details, I should say, of his knee injury, but does that scare you at all? Because he missed most of last year. I shouldn't say most last year. Missed a good chunk of last year with, I believe, a similar injury, and now he already is out not even one game through the year. Does that concern you at all, Matt?
It does. It really does. This is another case of a player where, we talked about it with Kittle on the preview show, where it's like the best ability is availability, and Elijah Mitchell is clearly their best running back. It's not even close. At least out of who we saw today. It's great that Deebo gets carries, but there's a shelf life to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Deebo had a bunch of carries today, 8 carries, 52 yards, and a touchdown, but he only had 2 catches, and he had a fumble. So how are you wanting to use Deebo Samuel, right? If you're throwing him in the backfield, and they do this thing with like rainbow motion, and I saw it a few times, where you're essentially making it 10 on 11, really 9 on 11, because you're motioning a guy to the backfield and then just leaving him back there, and he's not actively participating in the play. Some of these play calls are really odd to me, and I don't necessarily like the structure. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tall task for Kyle Shanahan to replace Elijah Mitchell's production and his steadiness and his skill as a running back. I'd like to see Mason and Ty Davis-Price get some carries, because I'm, again, like I said earlier, I want nothing to do with Jeff Wilson Jr. on this team carrying the ball for the rest of the year. Yeah. It's not good. And hopefully with the good weather, I see a comment down here from Bolts Nation. I think Danny Gray will be back next week. I think the inclement weather, he's a speedster. If you're not going to be hucking the ball down the field,
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan, he was also asked why they went with Malik Turner over Danny Gray and Jordan Mason over TDP. And he basically said their willingness to participate on special teams. And it seemed like those two wanted it more than the other two. So we'll see what that means moving forward. But I agree. I think we'll likely get Danny Gray next week over Malik Turner. Let's move on to some of the good things we saw today. And Ace Bruss said it here. Huff played great. Wish we had Ward out there with him. Huff was a man possessed. I mean, we've heard all out season. Troy Polamalu, he trains with him. He's the next Troy Polamalu too. Well, today he kind of looked like him, Matt, right? Kind of, a little bit, maybe. You squinted your eyes and tilted your head.
No, and I'll tell you why. In the box, he's great, right? But I'm pretty sure that second touchdown was on him.
Yeah.
And the first one might have been too, because he gets hungry. He starts pursuing the tackle. And why was Dante Pettis so alone? I think Hufanga left his zone.
Yeah.
And didn't carry Pettis. So in the box, I think that's fantastic, right? But when he's asked to be the single high guy, maybe not as good. One name that I didn't really hear called today was George Odom. And that's a good thing. If your single high safety is not called upon, that means he's doing his job. And I think that Hufanga played really, really well against the run, really, really well against scrambling. But in coverage, again, this is one of those things where does he become a liability? So it remains to be seen for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not to rain on anybody's parade or whatever, but like I gotta keep it a buck, as they say.
He was a fantastic against the run.
Yes.
And was able to kind of break up some of the broken plays. But I agree, just like you said.
And very quick to the ball. Very quick to the ball.
I think he finished with like 9 or 10 tackles, which is
9 tackles and 2
9
assists.
tackles. Yeah, and a couple tackles for loss. So
and
that was impressive. And the interception as well. Yes, that was really impressive. I would like to see his coverage skills improve. Los Fornia, good game with 49ers, #RabsNation. Hey, good game to the Rams. Unfortunately, 49ers and Rams both put up 10 points, but hopefully we have some good battles this year.
For who we rooting for? Kansas City and who's Seattle playing tomorrow?
Denver.
Oh, yeah. So Denver. Maybe the whole NFC West will be 0-1 after today.
Yeah. And I was talking about it before we started the show. I was saying all offseason, as soon as the schedule came out, the Rams have to deal with the Bills and the Cards have to deal with the Chiefs. The 49ers get an easy one against the Bears. Hopefully they'll be able to take advantage and go up an early game in the West. Unfortunately, that's not how football works. That's not what happened. Any given Sunday, anything can happen, and that's what we saw today, especially with the weather. But any other positives aside from Hufanga that you liked today?
I thought Jawan Jennings did a good job. 4 catches, 62 yards, including a deep one, where if he doesn't kick the back of his own heel, he probably scores. Right. That was, and by the way, those were the down periods of rain, and that pass to Jennings was beautiful. Yeah. Like, it was really nice. And Trey Lance had really a couple guys or a couple throws that were really nice. So,
yeah. Bolts Nation's Bosa looked strong. Yep. He looked really good out there. Yeah. Interesting. At what point do we decide Lance isn't it?
After 2023.
I was going to say a couple years if he doesn't improve.
If you're judging Lance off of a monsoon rain where there were legitimate standing water on the field, actually pull up that tweet that I sent you and show the shit, because this is wild. This is in Soldier Field after the game.
Pulling it up right now. Let me change.
This is Bears fans leaving the mezzanine level. Look at the water. And the players were playing in this today. And this is why Chicago's looking at replacing Soldier Field. They've had drainage issues for years, and this is a part of it. So to judge Lance off of the monsoon that was today, that's not it for me. I can't judge it. Did he look great? No. But who looked great today? Who looked actually great today? Nobody.
Yeah. For the most part, nobody really stood out above the rest. I was expecting, again, it's hard because of the weather. Like, I was expecting to see some Trey Lance to Brandon Ayuk connections, which we did see a couple, but the passing game just isn't there in this monsoon, especially in the second half when it just started pouring. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate.
And it was unfortunate that it happened at a time where the 49ers had to start throwing the ball more and more and more because they had, the Lance interception was bad because he stared down Jennings on that slant. But at the same time, that was the pressure in that moment of we have to throw. And hats off to the Bears defender that intercepted it. But when you're up against it and the rain is coming, so you're actually like pressing in your own mind, it's unfair to judge Trey Lance off of this. Some people have put up tweets saying like, man, he has accuracy issues, but shouldn't judge him against the weather. Yeah. People like that trying to kick some stuff up.
So but the Niners outgained the Bears by 127 yards.
Yep.
And still lost by 9. So it's really unfortunate, which is funny because they should have lost by 11, but Cairo Santos missed 2 extra points.
Right.
So they lost by 9. It is what it is. Yeah. That last drive, maybe that Kyle Shanahan had already realized and come to his conclusion that the 49ers were not going to win this game, but I was expecting to see a little more urgency out of them. They got the ball with 7.5 minutes, and they were still on their own side of the 50 with under 4 to go. And
there were like 2 penalties on that drive, and then we'll get into it. I know. Listen, the pass blocking today was dog shit.
It was really bad.
Legitimately dog shit. The middle of the line didn't hold their blocks. Mike McGlinchey looked terrible. Very immobile. Once again, looks like a liability in pass coverage. It looked horrendous. Yeah. So I don't know. And again, in the chat, people are like, man, why don't they run play action? And then the first play action they ran got blown up because the line can't hold blocks enough and nobody's scared of the running back. They're not buying what you're selling.
No.
So, when your guys can't block and you want Trey Lance to throw, that's not going to be necessarily great.
No. There were a
Randy West, Garoppolo would not have won this fucking game. Get out of here.
He would have lost.
Have you ever seen a throw in the rain? The ball dives like it weighs 300 pounds.
All we need to think about is the game against Indianapolis last year here in Santa Clara when it was storming and Jimmy Garoppolo threw how many interceptions and how many fumbles. Excuse me. That was a really, really nasty game by Garoppolo. So,
or go back to 2019 when they played
Washington
at Baltimore and they lost Baltimore and
that game too.
And at Washington when they didn't do anything.
9-3.
That carried them. Right. So yeah, no. Now I do want to address this. This was put up earlier by Aspra. Was surprised the D-line disappeared with all that depth. Listen, Chicago made great adjustments, and this has been a problem ever since.
Holy shit!
This regime came in.
Steelers won. Sorry.
What's that?
Steelers just won.
Oh, really?
Crazy game.
There's been a problem ever since this regime has come in.
Sorry, they think TJ Watt tore his pec. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
Stepping all over me.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the defensive line depth.
Yes. What happened? The Bears made a great adjustment. The 49ers, again, all gas, no brakes, all the way back to that Robert Saleh mentality. When you start using misdirection against an over-aggressive defensive line with a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields, where he would, fake a stretch to Montgomery and then roll the opposite way and the D-line's over-pursuing, that's how you get those type of plays. And the linebackers were there, but by the time the linebackers start to close, that's when you have that blown coverage to Pettis. So that's part of it.
Of course, it was Pettis, too, of all players. All the receivers there was Dante Pettis to catch that broken coverage touchdown.
Yeah.
Dante Pettis revenge game. Jimmy G proven to lose in the bad weather.
Yeah. So I don't know, Randy West, are you a 49ers fan? Because if you're a fan, I don't know what this is about. This is not about Trey Lance versus Jimmy Garoppolo. This is about the 49ers losing to the Bears. And Jimmy Garoppolo was not going to change that with the way the game went.
No.
I don't know what your aim is.
Trey Lance on missing Tyler Crawford touchdown. Tried to throw a perfect ball. Should have tried to put it right on him. Do you think that was on Lance?
It was
okay.
Because Croft was looking inside, which means that he thought the ball, and again, why throw it and pinch yourself on the sideline Croft was clearly behind him. If you just throw it up the seam, it's a touchdown.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was suggesting maybe he's used to throwing these deep passes to wide receivers who have a little more speed, but looks like he just kind of put it in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You'd like to see it, though. He definitely took the shot at it. And hopefully next time that's a completion and a nice touchdown. He also said, I made too many mistakes. I had a big miss Tyler Croft in the end zone. I turned the ball over, took a sack that took us out of field goal range. I shouldn't have. Missed Deebo on third down, missed another third down to Juwan. Just too many mistakes. He's extremely hard on himself, and I like that. I mean, he went literally into each mistake he just made. So I appreciate that, at least, because it shows a lot of accountability for a very young player.
For sure. Definitely is.
Yeah.
Chris Maxwell, I expected more use with Ayuk since he and Trey worked together during the offseason. Listen, to have expectations in the weather like it was today is kind of weird. Yeah. They're always weird games. Like, you can't really have expectations like that. It's just going to,
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's tough. But, I mean, this whole game, again, it's like it comes down to the 49ers shooting themselves in the foot with penalties, missed
By the way, I want to
opportunities.
say that offensive pass interference against Ayuk, man, what a soft call. He like fingertipped him, and the dude like threw his head back like he was like shot out of a cannon.
It was really unfortunate the way that these calls went. Again, I hate to be that guy, but there were so many penalties that could have been called on the Bears that weren't. I can remember off the top of my head a block in the back by the Bears offensive line, offsides on a fourth down by the 49ers. All of these weren't called. Could they have changed the game? Who knows? But the penalties that were called on the Niners definitely changed the game because they extended drives and allowed the Bears to get 2 touchdowns on drives that should have been
absolutely over. And that there was a unnecessary roughness or a personal foul or whatever against Azeez Al-Shire, the one where he actually got sent to the tent to evaluate for a concussion. Justin Fields slid down so fast that I was just like, that's really, really hard. It's really hard.
Especially in this weather, it's like, it's not like it's a solid ground where they can get a good footing. They're sliding all over the place as it is, and you expect them to be able to stop, on a dime and be able to not hit someone when they're likely already in motion. Oh, well.
Yeah. Listen, we already went over what the 49ers did and that it was self-inflicted wounds. I don't know if there's a Bears fan coming in, but we already gave props. The Bears won. I mean, it is what it is. We can't take that away, but the Bears won the game. The 49ers really beat themselves, though.
Yeah. I love how we're already seeing this. NFL on CBS tweeted 49ers record on Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy Garoppolo 35-16, without Jimmy Garoppolo 8-29. Like, come on, man. Right. They just had this one ready to go after if the 49ers lost.
On deck, they were watching the game going like, yes.
Doing the math, typing up the stats. It is what it is. And honestly, I would say Trey Lance played as about expected. I said expect an interception. He'll probably go anywhere from 17 of 23 with under 200 yards and a pick. That's roughly what we got from him. And I didn't think the weather would be as bad as it actually was, but it started coming down pretty poorly in the second half.
I mean, it was torrential downpour.
Yeah. Charles Hayes, another good spot. Our corners did their job. Wide receivers really didn't beat us, and the tight end didn't even get a catch. Charvarius Ward impressed me today. I thought he played pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, again, he had a holding penalty as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and it was an obvious holding penalty, too.
Yeah.
Of all people, Dante Pettis was cooking him on that route. So, yeah.
It's unfortunate. 49ers throwback with the super chat. Trey Lance takes accountability. 10 never does.
I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard Jimmy actively blame somebody else.
He might blame an injury.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not the same thing. He doesn't go as above and beyond as Trey does. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Trey makes a point to go, that was me.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo goes, well, it was me, but that's Jimmy Garoppolo.
I want to take accountability, but also I believe my teammates did not play well. Joking, obviously. I see that the Cardinals just went down 14-0.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Chiefs. Randy West, super chat. Jimmy G, Super Bowl quarterback. So was Rex Grossman. If that doesn't say Super Bowl winning is what matters, and the winning is not there. Any quarterback can appear in one.
Take Dilfer off the list then, because he won.
That's true. Yeah, he did win. There's not much, honestly, to discuss in this game because it's just ugly. It was just an ugly loss by the Niners all around. The play calling was tough. The self-inflicted penalties killed the 49ers.
Yeah. I'm concerned about Deebo Samuel, man.
How so?
He just doesn't look crisp. He looks like he was running his mouth more than he was actually running this offseason. So, like, some of the running stuff was good, but as a wide receiver, he didn't look like he was separating. You know, he didn't look like, I mean, the fumble in the red zone. There was a fourth quarter drop that he had on a Trey Lance dime that would have gotten them further up the field. It was just, it was a couple of things, man.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe he just needs to get back into shape. I don't know, but he looked a step slow.
I did make this bet, by the way, so I am going to get a Bears jersey and wear it on the stream. I made that bet, so it's only fair.
This is funny. William Petrosky, didn't know 49ers fans was crybabies. I don't understand how we're crying about this loss. Like we've said what the Niners did poorly.
The 49ers made a bunch of mistakes that cost them the game.
Would you rather us sit here and say it wasn't their fault?
They outgained them. They had more first downs. They ran more plays. They won time of possession by 7 minutes. The only explanation is that they made mistakes that cost them the game.
There's no other way to put it. There really isn't.
It's fucking clear.
Yeah. Yep. 49ers throwback. Trey Lance says we have to just keep grinding and keep our head up. I just have to be better.
There you go.
Yep. There's no other way to put it. Pettis MVP.
Yikes. Boy, he was like licking his chops when he got that pass.
I saw him on the sidelines after, and he was hyped. He was hyped. The camera went over to him. Good for him, man. I didn't even know he was. I mean, I knew going into this game, but this offseason, I wouldn't have known where he was. I knew last he was with the Giants, I believe, but whatever. Good for him. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to cover, Matt?
I just think that this is going to be important. This week is going to be really important for the 49ers to kind of get back on track. And really, they have to take a look in the mirror and really prepare themselves. Seattle is, again, one of those teams where, much like we thought the Bears, who the 49ers really definitely outplayed, other than their mistakes. First half, it looked like the 49ers were going to dominate this game, and then just self-inflicted wounds, right? The 49ers were clearly the more talented team. But they have to go against this Seattle team who is much in the same line that we think the Bears are in terms of caliber, and you have to put them away.
Yeah.
If you think that you're if you're the better team, really, you have to put them away.
Yeah. So. And in a season where you have your young quarterback, you really need to win the games you're supposed to win. The easy wins you should, and no win is easy in the NFL, but still, like these games this week, next week against Seattle, these are the games where you're not going up against a contender. You need to win.
Because week 3, they're not getting a break. They get Denver in primetime.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really tough. They have to figure out the running back position without Elijah Mitchell. If he was out for this game, I would guess that he's probably going to be out for a couple weeks at the minimum.
Yeah.
But they have to figure something out. Jeff Wilson Jr. is not it. They have to figure out if it's TDP. They have to figure out if it is Jordan Mason. They have to figure something out because they can't just rely on Deebo. I don't want to see Trey Lance keep running the ball like he was. I know that only some of them were designed runs, but we said this against Arizona last year too.
Yeah.
Trey Lance had 13 carries today. Now, again, some of those were scrambles. I think there were like 5 or 6 designed runs, but that cannot be the formula going forward.
No.
So whatever they're going to do to shore up blocking and to shore up that running back room, they have to get on that. because it's not going to work otherwise.
Yeah. Also, just want to point out that the Bears scored 19 unanswered points after the Niners went up 10-0. 19 unanswered. That's tough. I saw this report from Jennifer Lee Chan. She saw 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell leaving the locker room with a substantial brace on his right leg. He was not bending it as he was slowly making his way to the bus, but he was not on crutches.
I mean, not being on crutches doesn't tell me anything. The fact that they have it so that he's not bending it, that could be anything. That could be an ACL. That could be anything. So that's not good news.
Yeah. Rick Diaz says, I just got back from the game at Soldier Field. It was pouring, raining, and cleaned the game live there by default. I don't know. I think there's a typo there. Too many penalties. Can't protect the ball. It is what it is.
Yeah.
The weather was just horrible. Horrible.
Jimmy would not have won this game. Oh, my God.
No. Jimmy barely won the game in perfect conditions last year. Let's not forget that. Barely won the game against the same Bears team. So,
if brain cells were nickels, this dude would be broke.
We're gonna deal with this for a whole year.
It's the dumbest shit ever. Oh, Jimmy woulda. Okay, Monday morning quarterback. We've seen Jimmy Garoppolo for 4 years, and every weather game he plays like shit. So to judge Trey Lance on a weather game, like if you had no idea who Joe Burrow was today, and you watched that first half, and you saw him throw 3 picks, you'd be like, this dude's garbage. He sucks.
Yeah. I think he ended up throwing 4.
Mariah, no, you cannot fix stupid. That's for sure.
All right. I think we're going to wrap this one up because there's not much else to talk about. But again, I'm going to leave you with 49ers, 12 penalties for 99 yards, whereas the Bears only had 3 for 24. Whether that was on the refs, whether that was not on the refs, that's how it shaped out. That's not winning football. You're not going to win too many games where you out-penalize the other team by that margin. So the 49ers definitely need to improve and clean that up moving forward. And they got to beat Seattle next week because they cannot go into Denver on Sunday night 0-2. That's so much pressure on a young quarterback. So we'll see how it shapes out. Any final words, Matt, before we wrap this up?
Special teams was decent today. I thought Wish did a much better job of punting. The one area that I thought was hilarious was there was that Dante Pettis where he fielded the punt and the dude was standing there ready to tackle him. And I was like, that's got Richard Hightower all over it. So shout outs to Mike. He definitely called that one on the preview show. Yeah. Our special teams were actually pretty good.
Yeah. 49ers throwback. Hey, Matt, why aren't you disappointed? Dre Greenlaw, he had 2 penalties.
Oh, I talked about Dre Greenlaw earlier. Yeah. I said that he's not, that he's not going to be able to live off the reputation that he got from that Seattle game if he keeps committing penalties like that. And I compared him to Quan Alexander and called him a hothead.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking real quick on Richard Hightower, I tweeted during the game, I could just hear Hayward Metamittle cough, Hightower!
Yeah.
They were screaming that almost every game last year. Almost every game. So
Absolutely.
Now it's the Bears' problem to deal with. But with that said, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. It's a shorter episode. There's not much to discuss. It was an ugly loss, ugly performance by the 49ers. No excuses here. They need to play better if they want to win.
They have to clean it up. And they said it on the broadcast, and I completely agree. You can't call yourself a Super Bowl roster if you're going to commit these penalties and you're going to get completely, walloped by making these mistakes. This type of stuff has a chance to snowball. So they got to nip it in the bud real quick.
They really do. All right, guys, before we head out, we got to thank our sponsor, which is Mybookie. We got the afternoon games going on right now, but we still have the evening game, which should be a good one, Tampa Bay and Dallas. So the 49ers.
Oh, well, we lost Zach. We are still live. I will just throw my face up here, I guess. All right. I don't know what happened to Zach. So I think we're just going to leave it there. Thank you as always for joining us. We love having you guys here. It was a sad day. Unforced errors on us too, I guess, huh? So thank you for watching. And until next time, go Niners.